to order for December the 21st, 2020. Want to welcome everyone on this Christmas week. Wishing everybody in the building tonight and throughout the city a happy holidays. If you can't see Councilman Jones on TV, he wins for the best dressed councilman tonight. Thought it was Santa when he was walking in. I'd like to ask Reverend Jason Shelby, the pastor of St. Paul's Episcopal Church, to come forward and open our meeting in prayer. Thank you, Reverend Shelby.
Face y'all.
Yes.
Okay. Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, in your word you have given us a vision of that holy city to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold and visit, we pray, the cities of the earth, especially our city, Columbus. Renew the ties of mutual respect which form our civic life. Be with our leaders and bless them. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that men and women from different cultures and with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Members of the council, do you have any revisions to the agenda?
I'd like to add discussion of the COO salary to the agenda.
Okay, that will be S under policy. Anyone else?
Yes, I would like to discuss the CARES Act funding.
Okay. That will be T.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And y'all, I usually forget these even though I write them down, so help me remember as we get there. CARES Act. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to adopt the agenda for this meeting?
So move.
I have a motion from Councilman Mickens and a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Council, do we have any corrections to the minutes of the previous regular meeting on December the 7th, 2021? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Stewart. Do I have a second? Second from Councilwoman DeChico. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The docket of claims for December the 21st, 2021 is $909,391.13. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Stewart. Do I have a second? Second from Councilman Green. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Council, we have our consent agenda items, A through D. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by Councilwoman DeChico. A second, please. Second by Councilman Green. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move into general comments from the mayor and council. Are there any comments? Council members, do you have anything you'd like to say? I would like to say that I've been very impressed by the outpouring of love and concern from our citizens. We've had some fires in our community this week, and a lot of individuals and nonprofits have aided these folks, and we really appreciate that. On Sunday, I had the opportunity to spend a little time with the Shop for Cops that the community, the benefits community, put on, and I want to tell you that the children and the police officers and the folks in the sheriff's department just had a grand time there shopping for those kids in Walmart. It was very nice to see. It reminds me of just how friendly our city is and what a great place Columbus is. We also last night had a session with the public schools about issues in the public school system, and we talked about some of the homicides going on in Columbus. This stemmed from a meeting that happened at Scott a few weeks prior to that. And I want to say that I'm very impressed with the citizens. I know we don't always agree on all the issues, but we all agree that we need to do better by our children, and we look forward to working on those issues in the coming days. Also, the committee that Mr. Brooks is heading up, that we've worked on for crime prevention in January, council will be working with this again to see if we can't move some of those issues and research forward. So again, we want to thank everybody. We're looking for more volunteers for that group. And again, I know as we move forward, our city is going to be a better place for all of us, and we appreciate everybody's support there. I also want to thank our city employees for all they do. Our offices will close. We're going to close a little early tomorrow at 2 to give them a little head start into the holiday. We will return to our normal hours of 7 to 6 on Monday, December the 27th. The extended hours allow most of our employees to be off on Fridays. Also, council, you have the monthly... You have the monthly reports from departments before you. Do you have any questions for our department heads? Okay. Councilwoman DeChico, you're recognized.
I wanted to ask about the code enforcement. Are we there yet?
You wanted to ask about what? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The code enforcement. I just wondered how those are identified, because there's no code violations in Ward 1 and 2. Does that mean everything's good there? Or if there is a strategic plan or a plan, how those are identified? Are they identified by complaints or call-ins, or what is the plan? I mean, is it possible that Wards 1 and 2 have no code issues?
Is Sasha?
She's on the Zoom, Mayor.
Sasha, did you hear the question from Councilwoman DeChico?
Sasha, can you hear me? Sasha?
While we're waiting on Sasha, from my understanding, Councilwoman DeChico, many of the ones that
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Are you there?
Yes.
Did you hear Councilwoman DeChico's question?
I did. Just because they're not on the agenda doesn't necessarily mean that there are not any code violations in that area. Once we write up a code violation in any area, it's generated on a I guess 10 to 15 days, and then if they call me, I may work with them and give them an extension. By the time that extension expires, I'll go back around, do a re-inspection. If they have not complied to the notice that we sent out or what we agreed upon once we extended it out, that's when I write it up to come before the council. So just because it's not on this docket doesn't necessarily mean that there are not any code violations in those wards. It could be that we have some going forward on the next docket.
So once it's closed? I mean, do we still have some from previous months that are in progress in those wards?
We have some that we have open cases on, and it could be that the owners or the property owners have contacted me. They need an extension, or they in progress. They come up here and they've gotten a permit, and they are working towards fixing the issues. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the violations don't exist and we don't have an open case. It could be that they're working on the issue to fix it.
All right, do you think maybe the report could actually have another category that says how many are really in progress, not just from this current month?
The actual report, the monthly report, you're asking, could it have a in progress status?
Yes, but I see that in progress is only from November. So it looks like,
That's because we have you're absolutely right. I will have to check with the software to see if we can generate one, but it would generate, if it goes from the time we've written up the case, then technically there are going to be several cases that are still in progress. So if you wanted to keep those cases on the report that are actually still in progress, I'm sure it can be done.
all right, it just looks like if we looked at this, that everything in Columbus is pretty good, and that there's not really a lot of code violations in existence, and of course we know that that's not the case. Thank
There's
you.
several code violations in the system, but that's generated on a month-to-month basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. James. Are the numbers, she also asked, are the majority of these that you have, are they complaints that are called in, or are these ones that we self-identify?
Some of them are complaints that we get direct calls from. Some of them are on C-Click Fix. Some of them, they come to me through emails, phone calls, C-Click Fix. I drive around. I do daily inspections, re-inspections. So they come from me, observing and riding around and patrolling the city. And they also come from citizens' complaints on C-Click Fix, or they give us a direct call.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments, council?
I have a question. Councilman Jones, did you get your, are we going on down? Can I ask one about the police report?
Mm-hmm.
About the tickets? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I didn't know if that was, no. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so we wrote in the month of November, there were 302 tickets and 5 were retired to the file.
All right, and another one about the indictments. We have the cases, but are we getting any indictments?
Yes, so at the end of grand jury, they put out a list of ones that are billed or no billed, and we get that list. So if it's not up to date here, it should have just came out about a week ago. It might have not made this report.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any other questions for department heads? If not, I will ask Joe Dillon, our Public Information Officer, to come up and take us through the board vacancies.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, you'll vote on one vacancy for a 5-year term for the Columbus Housing Authority. This is to fill the remainder of Bobby Caldwell's 5-year term. It'll run until July of 2024. Mr. Caldwell resigned early, and so we'll consider those. We have 2 applicants, and we extended the invitation to them to come and speak. David Vega is first. David?
Good evening, Mr. Vega.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to be here. Just want to give you a little background about myself. My name is David Vega. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, but have lived in Columbus for over 26 years. People would ask how I came to live here in Columbus and why Columbus. Well, I would visit my brother, who was a chief air traffic controller of the base over here. And when I would come over here, I would always have a good experience. The people, they were very friendly to me. And, you know, coming from a big city, you really don't get to meet a lot of people on a personal level. Like if you go to a Walmart or whatever, and you see them as a friend or acquaintance. And I like that. I like that sense of community. And so that's what brought me over here, me and my wife. And this is my home now, and I am invested in my community. I want to see my community thrive and prosper, and that's why I'm here. The way I came to be involved with the Columbus Housing Authority is when I was a loan officer with Bancorp South. I was also the Community Reinvestment Act, or CRA, liaison for the bank. I was charged with bringing financial programs to the community, as well as provide financial assistance to area nonprofits that help low to moderate income families. One thing we realized at the bank is the urgent need for public housing and the importance for everyone to have a chance to have a home. When I reached out to Deborah Taylor and Robert Guthrie to see if they would like to be involved in our mission to help each reach the community, they were 100% on board. In fact, they would become my main partner to help bring these programs to the community. I have partnered with the Housing Authority to bring such programs as Housing America and Bancorp South Right at Home, which help discuss the steps to home ownership, credit repair, the roles lenders, realtors, and closing attorneys play in the process, financial literacy programs, and how to manage your money. Also, we brought a program called Elder Abuse, which discussed warning signs to look for, as well as end-of-life preparations. I would always invite Chief Fred Shelton to also come and speak at this program. He was a great hit with them, and they loved him. In my past discussions with Deborah and Robert, they discussed their desire to continue to provide up-to-date housing facilities and new home development to meet the long-awaited list for homes. In order to help with this need, while I was a lender, I helped facilitate and get approved the $1.5 million acquisition of the former Palmer home. I realized that this facility was also to become a residential group home for the elderly. I also helped with the process for the Housing Authority to get access to federal PPP funds to continue operations during the initial phases of the COVID pandemic. Since our relationship began, I would lobby for the Housing Authority to get CRA donation funds from the bank to further their mission through home ownership, financial literacy, summer camps, annual ribbon events, and Housing America events. Over the years, we have worked so close with the Housing Authority that I invited Deborah and Robert to be CRA board members of the bank. I believe in the mission of Columbus Housing Authority and what they have done so far for the community. I have a vested interest in CHA, and I want to help continue the mission of providing decent, safe housing that is affordable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, council? Thank you for being here. We appreciate your interest.
Mr. Mayor and Council, your second applicant is Kedra Gray. Is she here?
Ms. Gray, are you here?
I called her several times today to invite her and send her a message to you, and she did not provide a written statement.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Do I have a motion?
I move that we appoint David Vega to that position.
We have a motion for Mr. Vega. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second.
Make a
Do a
substitute.
substitute motion. for Kendra Gray to be appointed to the Housing Authority.
I'm sorry, say that again, please, ma'am.
Kendra Gray.
Grandra? Okay. We have a substitute motion for Ms. Gray. Do we have a second? Was it Pierre, did you second?
Second.
Second from Pierre. Any discussion? All in favor for Ms. Gray, raise your right hands. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Gray. Joe, will you take us through our citizens' input?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mayor. We've got two items tonight. One, we'll start with Mr. Curtis Bourdonnais. This is a issue he wants to discuss about some sewer issues at his business. Curtis?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. I thank you guys for letting me, and ladies and gentlemen, for letting me come here today and speak and just talk about the issue that we're dealing with at our restaurant. Some of you was here in November and December of 19 when we requested a permitted use for the patio, and during that time, there was a lot of questions, and one of the big questions that stick to my mind was that came from, I think, Mr. Box was, are you guys financially able to complete a restaurant? Do you know the requirements and the cost of opening a restaurant and the cost that it inquires? And anybody who wants to kind of go back and look at that council meeting, you listen to that, because that's going to be very important to what I want to talk about. But that was the question that was asked, and I thought it wasn't relevant for permitted use, but I answered that question, and I said we were, and that we were going to do it right. We were going to put a commercial hood with fire suppression system. We were going to make sure we had right plumbing and electrical. We spent probably $50,000 on electrical. You know, to date, we've contributed to this community as a small black business, which we are proud of. We've contributed and put into circulation over $1 million since COVID. That's just fascinating, that you can open a restaurant in the midst of COVID and contribute that type of finances to this city and this community. And so recently we had a problem with the drainage ditch behind our property, which since the time we leased it to now, we are owners of that property. And so we had problems with this ditch, and it is eroding our property. And so we reached out to the mayor's office because we were having a smell that we didn't know where it was coming from. And so we decided to close the restaurant and try to do some maintenance and backfilling and figure out what's causing this problem. Well, during that time, the city sent out Mr. Stafford, who you guys are going to deal with later, who's trying to get an easement to do repairs in this very ditch with other individuals. So you guys are going to pass an easement related to this same ditch in different areas. So basically what happened was when Mr. Kevin came out, I explained to him that when we got ready to open our restaurant, we needed to find out where to connect our sewer services. And Mr. Weigel and Mr. Dye came out and they said, look, this is the situation, and there's a septic tank here, and the city tied into the septic tank. You bring your sewer here, and that's how you tie it in. And they did the inspections, and we did what we were told. For 2 years, we've been operating. Now, because of the ditch and the damage that is caused to the septic tank, we are now being told that there are no sewer services to our restaurant. Not only is there no sewer services, but the only services we have is a septic tank, all right? Now, that was strange to me. Nobody would give me nothing in writing. We're closed. We're losing a tremendous amount of money, let me say, a tremendous amount. We're closed. No one won't give me anything in writing. So I'm pressing now because this is my wife's restaurant, and first off, nothing comes to us by just giving it to us. We had to fight all the way to get the restaurant open. So I'm pressing, and I'm pressing. Finally, we get an email from Mr. Jeff Smith, and he says that, look, you've talked to a representative, and our position is this, and you need to spend this amount of money, and then there's some other costs that we don't know what they are. And I'm here to tell you today that we can't say we have the finances for that. We can't go down that rabbit hole and fix the problem. And then the general manager for Columbus Lights and Water says that, Mr. Bordenave, it's possible, in an email, it's possible, Mr. Jeff, that the problem occurred through the annexation of that area. That business was not part of the city at the time when it was built. And so we annexed that. And so maybe that's the problem. So me being me, while my wife's saying, look, let's just get an attorney. I said, no, let me research it too, because I can do a little more research better than an attorney. So I go and I find the annexation, the boundaries and extension and annexation. And in that annexation that came before this very city council and the Mississippi Supreme Court, where it went to while Mr. Hayslett was the mayor. And in that agreement, this city, this very body, agreed to bring sewer services to the area that was being annexed, which was being opposed by a number of citizens because they felt this very city did not have the means or the finances or the wherewithal to bring those sewer services. And now I'm here today for that same problem. Not only that, but the Mississippi Supreme Court said that the city of Columbus had a reasonable amount of time to provide said sewer services, and that reasonable amount of time should not extend past 5 years. Past 5 years. So now they want me to pay for sewer services that Mr. Hayslett testified before the Mississippi Supreme Court would be provided to the businesses and the homes that y'all annexed. And believe me, that's a problem. That's a problem that Columbus Lights and Water think that's our responsibility. It's a problem that I can't even request for production of information in public records from city officials, that I gotta go get an attorney to help me get public records because nobody wants to answer my question. But my questions have to be answered because I, just like the person who was before me, I've contributed to this community. We've been paying salaries. We've opened a restaurant, and I believe that if it was another restaurant, something would be done differently. It would be done differently. Listen, first off, Mr. Hayslett, let me give you a little history for the public and the people that's listening. Mr. Hayslett was the mayor, and if you don't know the history, I'm not from Columbus, but believe me, I'm thorough in research. If you don't know the history, at the end of his term, he went and worked for Columbus Lights and Water as the general manager. So that tells me that Columbus Lights and Water knew quite well their obligation to provide said sewer services. Not only did they know it, but they hired the very person who agreed to it. So if you have a house and you go and apply for Columbus Lights and Water and Sewer, and you do an application and they approve it, do you assume you have sewer services? And then if you're paying it, not only did I pay sewer services for the last 2 years, Mr. Leo Lemo paid it for 10 years. Mr. Michael Putt paid it before he sold it to us. This is a massive problem. And the problem is not just fixing and letting us get back open. The problem is also the 4 factors, the serious factors that are mentioned in this Supreme Court case when this case was being opposed about the annexation. It is the health and the safety of this community and the risk of contaminating our water. Literally, where is the areas that was annexed? Where is the reports on that annexation? Was it ever done? Is there septic tanks leaking into the Tom Bigby waterway? Is there water being contaminated? Did they complete that? I would like the sewer ordinance that was created. There was a sewer ordinance. When I leave here today, I will be presenting a public information request for that information. That sewer ordinance was presented to this very board, this city council. And I want to read one thing And then I'm going to close with a simple statement, and I'm going to let y'all know where we're going from this point as a business. But I want to read this from this matter of extension boundaries of Columbus. And this is the Supreme Court of Mississippi. I want to read this paragraph, and I want everybody to listen to it. And then I'm going to say what I have to say, and I'm going to leave out of here. Y'all won't hear no more from me until this matter gets resolved, because we're going to move forward in a different direction with the city. But I want to read this paragraph, and then I'm going to tell y'all how we're going to deal with it, and then I'm going to walk on out of here, and I'm going to hold my head up high. All right? The paragraph says, the annexation ordinance calls for installation of sewer services within a reasonable amount of time, not to exceed 5 years, where necessary, and economically feasible. The objectors point to the city's minimal planning and the subjective economical feasibility. Wording in the ordinance, I like that ordinance, I like a copy of that, and assert that it makes no sense to cite potential hazards as a reason for annexation when no solution to the potential problem is offered. So I had to tell my wife that, babe, listen, we're not gonna be able to spend any money to bring services that they should have brought a long time ago. We can't go down that rabbit hole because there's too many unanswered questions about who's gonna tear up my patio, who's gonna replace the turf that we bought, who's gonna replace the $60,000 patio cover that we put in October if y'all have to tear it down. And then they're coming around to get easements and waiver of future past and present liability. Like, who signs that? I tried to hire an attorney to research that and run across an attorney you guys hired, Mr. Falk. He used to be the city attorney or the current city attorney of Aberdeen to just give me some insight on that. And he said, I can't help you because I represent the city against the Yobor, but I've never done that. That's a new one to me. Sounds like a smart move. Like, yeah, smart if you sign it. I guess if I sign it, it's smart for the city, but I wouldn't sign it. So what we decided to do is, and I want the community to know, I want the community to know what's going on. I want them to know that there's possibly places within this city that does not have sewer services that are paying for sewer services. I want the community to know that. And I want the community to also know that we want to give back to this community. You would want to take, but we have no alternative but to hire counsel to represent us in this matter, given the pure nature of how this has transpired. I mean, you know, this is ridiculous. And there's no way in the world we would be here, I believe, if this was Zachary's, if this was Harvey's. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to, you know, you got to excuse me, Mayor, but I'm starting to question the Better Together and who that is. You know, at one point, I remember you saying something on the news, and I was with it. You know, there was an incident between somebody and politicians and this board or something, and you said that we need to make sure that we are being neutral. And if we need independent parties to investigate things, then we can. And I love that. I love that. But we got to keep it both ways. Don't send the city council out to my restaurant while the police are investigating noise ordinance. It's the same thing. I don't need city council members coming to our restaurant while the police are investigating something to have an influence. It's the same thing. It's got to work both ways. It's got to work for all businesses. You can't just put roadblocks on the street by the Yobor and don't put it on the block by Zachary's. Come on, call it what it is. Call it what it is. We got letters to put striping in our parking lot, and believe me, we understood that it's the ordinance, but how many other businesses got that letter? We put the stripes. Because you know what? My wife said, baby, I want you to do the stripes anyway. Because it's required anyway. Even if nobody else is doing it, we're going to do it. Because we have to not just do it, we have to exceed to stay here. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And so I've put the city on notice that this ditch that they're closing in, and they're building a great wall as they collect easements. They're putting this wall up. They're leaving trees in the ditch. The trees are eroding. The trees are going to fall on homes and apartments. I've sent that. I put that on notice. So now the city's responsible for that. If the trees fall and hit somebody's apartments, that's y'all problem. I'll be the first, though, to be there to show them the video, and then I'll put y'all on notice. And I hope that somebody looks into it, because the hardest part of politics that you guys have is to accept responsibility when y'all make mistakes. And we all make mistakes. It doesn't matter if you're a business, an individual. I've made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And the biggest test as a politician is to be able to take and accept the responsibility for the mistakes that's being made. Okay? And like I said, Mr. Hassett went on to have a great career at Columbus Lights and Water, and from my understanding, he was also over the Light Association or something like that. And it's just, I don't know. And I don't know the guy. I read about him in the newspaper. He looks like a nice guy. I don't know anything about him, but it seems suspect to me that this very person that said in this thing, this is how much money we got for this and this and this and this and this, and none of it is done. And the city needs to know, because there are some very serious questions about the annexation and the health of the very things I'm talking about. Our water, you know? What about our children? How many businesses have septic tanks that's supposed to have sewer that is leaking in the community? You know what I'm saying? Think about it. So we've decided to hire counsel, and unfortunately no attorney in this area would take the case, either because of who we are or because of their relationships, not that they had conflicts, but because of their relationship with city attorneys or the water company attorney. So we have to go outside of the city. But we're going to defend ourselves. We've decided that we're going to take every little change we got, and if we have to sell every little piece of furniture and things that we got at the restaurant, we're going to put it all into the defense. And we're going to fight this because we want to be made whole, completely whole. We don't agree to the terms of Columbus Lights and Water of just bringing the sewer service and we come dump some unknown amount of money into more work. We won't. We won't. Y'all will hear from us really soon. But I want the public to understand what's going on. And be cautious when you vote for those easements. Look into that. Because if you're using public money to do improvements on what they call private property, I have an obligation to maintain that. If I have an obligation to maintain it, then the easements, why are y'all fixing it with our money? That should be illegal. You can't take public money and repair something unless you have an interest in repairing it. An interest, maybe in controlling the flood and flooding in the city. And if you have an interest, I shouldn't have to give you an easement waiving liability to come make repairs that you have an obligation to. Because before the annexation, the Tom Bigby Association managed it. So when you annexed it, you took that responsibility on, not me, not my wife. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
My understanding is when it was annexed that sewer was to be supplied to that area. I'm going to speak from personal knowledge because I was annexed. They brought down sewage down my road, and at that point they said, you can go tie on to this public service and this sewage if you would like. We're not going to spend the cost and dig up your yard if you don't want us to. That's your private property. But if you would like to take your sewage off of your septic tank and tie on to city service that we have supplied down this road, you can do that. I chose not to. I am still on a septic tank in the city limits. That was my choice. I still have the choice to pay at my expense to move the sewage from my house down to the road that the city did supply the sewage to that area like they said that they would. So I don't know if that fits your situation, sir. I know you can't speak for what the business owner did 15 years ago, but they very well might have had that option to either tie on to the service that was provided or to keep their own septic tank. They did.
They're required to tie in.
Can you come back up to the front so everybody can hear him? Sorry.
I'll have to refer to our council, but they are not required to come and dig up my yard and come all the way up in my private property to tie onto that septic tank. They have supplied the line down that road that was not there before they annexed. They came and did exactly what they said, and it was my choice to tie onto it or not.
Did you tie into it?
I did not.
Are you paying sewer services?
I am.
You are. So you're paying sewer services and you don't have sewer?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, that's
my choice. I don't expect them to go and try to figure out every little line that they did.
Right.
That's part of the service.
I just wanted to point that out so the people that's listening over time can digest that. And that's your choice to pay sewer services and don't have sewer. I mean, do you have electric?
I do have electric, yes, sir.
You're paying electric though, so you have it and you're paying for it.
Yes,
Well,
sir. I'm not trying to argue with you, sir. I'm just trying to say that when you started with your scenario, that was my scenario. I exactly did that, and when they annexed.
You're speaking about what you're saying. I'm speaking facts. I have the documents here that show who's supposed to pay for the service, who's supposed to tie it in. So if you have knowledge that I don't know now, you are welcome to this information. Actually, what you can do is, if you give me your email, I'll send it straight to you. But I'm telling you what the document says. And listen, there's an ordinance that was done. There's an ordinance that was passed. And if you read the ordinance and the reports, the utilities reports, it clearly says that it's supposed to be brought. So while I do respect and understand your thought about it and your opinion, it is not accurate. You are absolutely wrong. And if you read the annexation and the whole ruling from the Mississippi Supreme Court, you will find that you are incorrect. And so I am comfortable telling you are incorrect because I have read the information completely before I came here to speak on it.
I'll be glad to see that, and I'm not disputing you. I'm telling you from what happened in my experience, they did exactly what they said they were going to do, was provide service to that area, and they did. So you do what you have to do, our council will have to do, and this'll
Okay. Do y'all
fill
want
us
to make
it
a
out.
copy of this for anybody want a copy? I can provide it for a copy.
Sure, thank you. Do you have one to leave with us?
Yeah, I'll leave this one.
I'll copy and give it back to Mr. Bourdain.
Okay, I appreciate it. Make sure he get, because he's paying services he shouldn't have to pay for. Make sure I got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Mayor, and council, next is Jason Spears on citizens input, and he's our final one for the night.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, Mr. Spears.
Appreciate you having me here, and Joe, appreciate the order. Put me second. Let me give you this information here. Come before you tonight. I have the opportunity to work with Columbus Soccer Organization. We are over the recreation and, of course, also the competitive side of soccer here in the community. One of the things I have the opportunity to do is serve as chairman over the competitive side. And one of the major responsibilities of that position is putting on the annual tournament that we have here in Columbus. It's the Bank First Friendly City Shootout. We have it down at the soccer complex. This year it'll be February the 12th and 13th, 2022. We've already got teams registered from Oxford, from Jackson. I've already had good communication with Brandon, Meridian, Birmingham. So I'm looking for a very good participation rate across from boys and girls, from U9 all the way up. And we're also going to have the U8 developmental, which is not technically competitive at that age, but we are having other clubs send their younger kids that are getting into those competitive leagues to come and play here. I've been working with Nancy Carpenter on being able to get rooms and other accommodations for those who will be coming to our city. One of the things that we've been able to do is get block rates, and I've talked to several of the managers for different teams from different areas who are going to be coming and staying 1 or 2 nights in hotels here. Of course, they'll eat out, buy gas, all the things that go on to have an economic impact here in the city. So what I'm here before you, besides offering an invitation for y'all to come out and see the kids and all the other teams that are going to be here February the 12th, 13th, is also to make a request. The first request, if you're familiar with the soccer complex, there's I believe it's Championship Loop that goes around, and in front of the concession stand, what I'd like to do is be able to shut the street off that runs in front of the concession stand, so you don't have to worry about kids and parents and stuff with traffic flowing through there. And then, of course, I think there's a parking lot on the other end. What's the street that comes off of Main that leads back over? I apologize, I can't think of it. But anyway, on that very far end of the soccer field, on that one side there, there's a street that comes down, and then it comes back and connects up to Championship Loop, and that's where I'm going to stop the wall off so that people can flow back and forth across the complex. The second request is that, and I waited till after y'all had a chance to do the ordinance on the food trucks, is we're also wanting to, basically showcase some of those offerings here. You don't see it when you go to Meridian or if you go to other tournaments, and I thought that would be an added dynamic to bring people back to our tournament. Is when they get to come and say, oh man, not only do they have concessions, but they also have, when we go to Tupelo, other things, they don't have food trucks and different things that are there. So I've offered, and people have accepted to come, but I wanted to come before you and ask if there would be an exemption granted for those food trucks that have said that they will come out to be a service at our tournament and everything. Because that's another thing that, obviously we want to make sure that we have there, in addition to all the things that Nancy's helping me with get put together before this tournament arrives. So those are kind of an outline of what's going on, and if y'all have any questions or anything, I'd be glad to answer them.
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Spears?
How many people, Mr. Spears, you expecting that gonna come into the city for those few days we talking?
Now you're talking about total people, like
Yeah.
parents and everybody? Well, I mean, as far as I'm looking at about 50 teams, and on each team, if you're in a U9, you're going to have about anywhere from 10 to 14 kids on it, double that for the parents that are coming. And then, of course, you get up to your older age bracket, like the U16, it's 11v11, and so, of course, that's 22. And, of course, you got your parents and everything that comes with that. So I would say anywhere from the neighborhood, with the number of teams that I'm expecting, I mean, you could see easily 1,500, 2,000 total participants coming through. Because that's not to say the grandparents won't come along to also watch or maybe drive up for the day or something on Saturday. And the way that I've structured our tournament is a little bit different than what normally happens. Normally, if you go to, say, Tupelo, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we're going to schedule you 2 games, and you're going to play those 2 games on Saturday, come back and play 1 game on Sunday. And that's your 3 games you get for your price of admission. What I've done is I want it to be a more competitive type of dynamic, because most teams have been off for the holidays, and this will be the first tournament they start in their spring schedule. And so what I've tried to do is make it into a competitive to where you actually have bracket play. So you come in, you play 2 games on Saturday, and that'll seed you for how you're going to play on Sunday. And so you show up on Sunday, and if you lose the first game, well, you're done. Of course, you may have lost both games on Saturday and played 3 games on Sunday, and you win the championship. So I want it to be a really competitive type of matchup with all the different areas there. So as far as numbers, and that could grow, it could decrease, depending on what's going on in the world, weather, or, all the different types of health situations, things, and we'll have to monitor that. But that's kind of my guesstimate for now.
I think the road closure should go, if the chief has a form for you to fill out for the road closure, so I think.
Sure, and I'll go through and do that. I just wanted to make sure I got permission for y'all to be able to do it. And like I said, it's just that small section that I'm actually close, because we'll need all the parking we can get over there, going down, what is it, by Munson's? Is that 4th, 3rd Street?
Is that 3rd, I think?
3rd?
That's 3rd.
So we'll need all that parking and also on the backside.
And you're putting the food trucks, so the proposal is to put the food trucks in that blocked off area you just mentioned?
That's correct, yes. They'll be right there in the concession, because in the concession stand, one of the difficulties is, obviously the just-in-time food and different things, and we wanted to have a variety in addition to what we're doing. And we're also working with Zaxby's. They're going to be providing, we'll be buying, obviously, at a discounted rate, the chicken fingers and little mini sandwiches and things like that to sell through the concession stand. And so some of these vendors that are coming, they'll know they can't sell drinks, they can't sell hot chocolate, those type of things, because we're going to be selling through the concession stand, because obviously we want those proceeds to go back to our program. And all the money from the membership, the entry fees that are paid by the incoming teams, or anything that's collected, like it's sales we have concession stuff, all goes back into our program here in Columbus Soccer Organization, and that's obviously a big boon for our programs and what we can do for the children here in the community through the, soccer programs.
Any other questions for Jason?
Does he need an exemption for the food truck?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're asking
Yes,
for,
sir.
is for the authorization to locate the food trucks in the blocked off area and for approval of blocking it off.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
May I make a motion that we extend the exempt to Mr. Spears and his organization to bring in the food trucks exempt.
Thank you.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Mickens and a second from Councilman Beard. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hands. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Spears.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. Please come
Good
out
job,
and join
man.
us.
In
Thank
his
you.
motion, it was just for the food truck, so you still have to go to
Oh, I
Chief
will.
to-
I'll get
yeah,
Chief
to do
Hill.
the
And then
thing,
that'll come
yeah.
back through.
Right.
Thank you.
all.
Now we'll move to our policy agenda. Need to discuss, approve request to promote employee to the position of accounts payable clerks and approve request to advertise to fill vacated position.
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Councilman Mickens. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discuss and approve request to reject re-roofing bid. Approve for city engineer to write specifications and re-advertise. I have a motion from Councilman Green. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Vice Mayor Mickens. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Discuss and approve city's property and casualty insurance renewal. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilwoman Stewart. Do I have a second? C, property and casualty. Have a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion here?
And this is the recommended one we're going with, right? Because they have multiple options.
We do have, Mr. Malk is here, if you'd like for him to answer some questions. Good evening, Mr. Malk. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Yes, sir, you're correct. The recommendation is for the approval of.
I just wanted to make sure, because everybody just seconding and stuff, and it's 3 options. I just wanted everybody to be clear which option we were going with.
You're going with the traveler's option and the MMSC option.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Malk while he's up here? Thank you, sir.
Mayor, Council, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Discuss and approve derelict property docket.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. You have a number of cases tonight. Many of them are asking for immediate abatement. I'll just start with those. The first is case number 21-0389, Mortgage Center, Inc., 917 6th Street South, Mortgage Center, Inc., Mortgage Center, Inc. If anybody representing that company is here, come forward. The next one is, one of them's been deleted, the Luxapalala Land Company. I think it was cleared by the owner before the summons was actually issued, if I'm not wrong. Next is case number 21-0277, Jackie Green, 501 28th Street North. Jackie Green. If you're here, come forward. I think this one, Ms. James, are you asking for more time on that one?
Yes, 45-day extension. I spoke with Mr. Green, his son actually, and they are working on a plan to reconstruct the building. So
I believe they may be here. Are y'all the Green family?
This is Mr. Jackie Green. He had turned it over to his son to do the work on the property.
Yes, sir.
He lived in Tupelo, and he had, in 2020, he caught COVID, and so he can't do no work on, he paralyzed, and he had a fifth stroke. And from that, he's not able to do any work no more in the building. So he turned it over to his son, Jackie L. Green. And he is asking, can he get 90 days instead of 40 to get the work done? Because he's gonna have to get him some help.
I think we currently do 45 days, and if they don't do it by that time, then you can come back and ask for additional time. I think it's how it normally works. Right.
Because the tornado tore some of it.
That's Mr. Jones is right.
Working on it.
Typically, the council will give 45 days, and if you need more time after that, then you don't have to physically come. We now have Zoom capabilities and all that, so
Okay.
if you could dial in or call in or whatever, we'll make arrangements for you so you don't have to travel if you don't have it done in 45 days.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here.
And y'all be careful. So I guess the request then is for a 45-day extension on this one.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we grant them the 45-day extension.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard and a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, next one is 21-0381 Leon Dumas, 1318 15th Street North, Leon Dumas. Next is case number 21-0390 Richard P. and Julia G. Johnston, 1206 7th Street North, Richard P. and Julia Johnston, Richard and Julia Johnston. If you hear, come forward. Next is case number 21-0426 Carl Jones, 711 15th Street North, Carl Jones. I know he was here earlier. I think I saw him leave. Mr. Jones wants more time. Ms. James, do you know about that?
Check my notes because I don't recall talking to Mr. Jones about his plan of action going forward with the home. Wait a minute, Mr. Jones, 711. I'm sorry, I got it mixed up with the other 15th Street address. Yes, he did contact me. Mr. Jones did contact me about a 45-day extension. So he will be able to make some sort of arrangements or plans to start renovation on the home.
Is that your recommendation?
I recommend that we give him at least 45 days, but within that time frame, he would have to come in and get a permit and start the repairs, or, make some type of progress.
Okay, so do you have his contact information where you can let him know?
Yes, he just would need to get in contact with me. I don't have his contact information in my system.
Okay, all right, so Mayor and City Council, the request on Mr. Jones is a 45-day extension.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion from Councilman Jones and a second from Councilman Beard. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next one is 21-0435 Naya Cologne Blackman, 1103 Fifth Avenue North. Naya Cologne Blackman. I understand that.
My name is Frankie Cologne. I'm here on behalf of Naya Cologne. She is requesting time to sell the property.
And I understand, Ms. James, that you recommend that.
Yes, I did. I spoke with a couple of people about regarding that property there, and they did, express their concerns. They are trying to get it sold. So I did, I would recommend giving them time to get it on the market and try to get it sold.
I'll make a motion that we grant 45 days.
Have a motion from Councilman Jones, second from Councilman Beard. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So I know this has been a little disjointed, Mayor and City Council, but in case number 21-0389, 21-0381, 21-0390, we're asking for immediate abatement.
So moved.
Have a motion and from Councilman Jones and a second from Councilman Beard. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
All right, we'll have two left. The next is case number 21-0410, estate of Wilbert and Sarah Thomas. I understand this case has been remediated by the owner, and you're asking for a reentry according to 21-1911. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Jones and a second from Vice Mayor Mickens. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
The last one is 21-0434, Ida Gibson and Datrick Davis, 1923 College Street. Ida Gibson, Datrick Davis, Ida Gibson, Datrick Davis. You, Ms. Gibson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Gibson.
Hi. I have a permit already, and the building is already being torn down. It will expire soon, and if you would give me an extra 45 days to be sure it's all cleared out.
And I understand, Ms. James, that's your recommendation. Is that right?
That is correct.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Green and a second by Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes.
That's all of the cases. Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Thank you, Council. The next is to discuss approved tax exemption for new equipment at Johnson Tonk Bigby in the amount of $19,045.91.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I believe you're all aware of the ad valorem tax exemption request. I sent a lengthy email about this. The request is for a staggered 10-year exemption for equipment purchased by the manufacturing company during 2017, 2018, and 2019. And the exemption would last, if you approve it, through 2028, 29, and 2030. It's for about $2+ million worth of equipment. The exemption would be approximately $19,000 per year during the exemption period if you're inclined to do it.
How much do they normally pay? I think you brought that up in the work session.
They pay approximately $40,000 a year in real property taxes and approximately $115,000 a year in equipment ad valorem taxes. So they pay well more than $100,000 a year.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the exemption.
I have a motion from Councilman Green. Do I have a second? Do you have a second? Motion fails. Discuss and approve Columbus Light and Water revenue bonds.
Mayor and Council, what you have here tonight is a resolution basically finding that there was no protest. So if you'll recall, on November 16, you passed a resolution of your intention to issue Columbus Light and Water revenue bonds not to exceed $8.7 million. The issue was published in the Dispatch. I believe it was the Dispatch. Hold on. Yes, in the Dispatch for 3 consecutive weeks. And so I'm assuming, Ms. Mitchell, we did not receive a petition signed by 10% of the registered voters, or 1,500 people. So basically, this is just a no protest resolution. So the bond attorneys can know to proceed with the issuance process. It's a voice vote, Mayor.
I have a motion and a second. This is going to be a voice vote. I have a motion from Councilman Jones and a second from Councilman Beard.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Discuss and approve awarding CLCA Jet A fuel tank replacement project to the lowest responsive bidder, Cobb Environmental and Technical Services, in the amount of $185,148.
So move.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second from Councilman Green? Any discussion?
And all that work being completed and signed off on?
Mr. Stafford?
This is just the lowest bidder.
Is on G.
Yeah, this is item, well, I guess I have an old, but
This is just the awarding.
the item G is just an award of the lowest bid. Zach, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Do I have a motion? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discuss and approve accepting FAA's Airport Rescue Grant offer, grant number 328-0019-024-2022 in the amount of $32,000 for CLCA.
So move.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second? Have a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. I just want to recognize Mr. Zach out there at that board. I want to say awesome job with getting all these grants out there for us. It's amazing the work that you're doing out there. And it's a joy and a pleasure to work with you, and I want to continue to work with you in the future. You keep it up, man.
Thank you, Councilman Beard.
Third.
I just need to get his name on the agenda now.
Any other discussion?
You're awesome too, man.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Discuss, approve second final payment to Weathers Construction to open hangar rehabilitation project in the amount of $35,835.65. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I have a motion from Councilman Beard and a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discuss and approve payment application number 9 for Walters Construction for 2020 City Street paving in the amount of $37,348.35. I stand corrected. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Jones. Sorry, Councilman Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Vice Mayor Mickens. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
A lot of money get right before Christmas.
Discuss, approve acceptance of drainage easements to Chateau de Holly Hills apartment ditch cleaning by the TRVWMD. Do I have a motion? I have a motion from
Mr. Kevin, can you come discuss this since this came up earlier? Make sure we're all on the same page.
Can we wait till do we get to that point, please? Do I have a motion? Councilwoman DeChico, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mickens. Any discussion? Now, Mr. Green.
Yeah, so
Stafford, would you please address this?
obviously the city accepting drainage easements is standard all over. I mean, matter of fact, entire neighborhoods are platted with drainage easements that cities maintain. In this case, one of the things that Mr. Boardnay was referring to is the waiver of liability. This ditch, in this case, is larger than what the city can take on. The reason we're requesting this easement is so that the Tombigbee River Valley Water Management District can come in and make the cleaning as the current resident and owners have requested. The problem is there's a development that developed all the way up to the top bank of the ditch, and the district said, if we come in here, the parking lot's already damaged, we don't want somebody to blame us for damaging the parking lot, and then we'd be liable to replace and put in a brand new parking lot for them. So we would like that liability waived for that reason, and the owner said that's reasonable because we know we need to fix our parking lot as well. So that's kind of goes back to the reference you was making earlier. But again, drainage easements for repair throughout the city is pretty standard, and we have to get this because what it does, it passes from the city to the county, then to the district once we get this easement. But ultimately, we maintain the easement full time.
Any more discussion?
Without the easement, you can't go in and fix private property, right?
Correct.
All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Discuss, approve Beach Street drainage pipe replacement. Do I have a motion? Have a motion from Councilman Mickens and a second
Quick on
from
that one.
Councilman Beard. Any discussion?
I just want to ask, how do we, I'm all for this, but how do we, what are the priorities? Were these set a long time ago, like what's done first or second?
Yes, ma'am. So the pipes that were added actually between the yards were done, I'm going to say 5 years ago or so by Public Works, whereas these are in the streets. And this is, the ditch downstream was probably done in 2017. This is going to be the gap in between those two drainage improvements. So it's the last piece, but it's also the more complicated piece to do that's underneath the curb and gutter in the street and also runs between some very large trees that are currently in the current pipe blocking them up. So it's a piece that's beyond Public Works' ability to do.
And where's this money coming from?
Our discussion has been for to use the use tax or the internet sales tax for this because it is a street improvement since it does follow along current Beach Street.
And that's the one that we got the $1 million in?
Yes, sir.
So we're taking 215 out with the 36,000 from the previous?
We'll know once we get the bids, but that's our projection right now.
Gotcha. Just trying to keep
Yes, sir.
you know.
I understand.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Discuss and approve Lawrence Street drainage ditch repairs and acceptance of drainage easements from residents. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Have a motion from Councilman Mickens and a second from Councilman Jones. Beard. Do I have any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Discuss and approve Forest Glen Road Guardrail Addition. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Green. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Councilwoman DeChico. Any discussion?
Is this coming from the?
I was about to ask that.
That was what we discussed at the work session last week, was it would also come from.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discuss and approve geotechnical exploration proposal for the new bridge at Probst Park.
So move.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Stafford, I know we got you doing another project for Probst Park. What's it different? That wasn't gonna be put in that project, that bridge, or are we doing it different?
So that will definitely be part of the master plan. The roadway configuration, as if you'll remember the front piece that we were going to do the 5-wheel and how that
Yeah.
road was going to get bumped out. This
Yeah.
actually lines up where that bridge will go up and line up and get past the current rec center and go up to the VFW as well along the northeast side of the park. But it'll be part of the overall master plan that'll be incorporated in. This is actually, it was in motion before y'all look at the overall master plan. So this is more of the technical side of designing the bridge to cross the actual creek that's there.
Have we put a time frame on there yet?
Yes, sir. So public input, we're going to cut off January the 7th. Look to have a public meeting to tell everybody what we found with that input and also our findings in February, and have a final master plan to present back to the public in March.
Any other discussion? All in favor? raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Discuss and approve ARPA consulting firm. The three firms that we have discussed is Horn LLP, Wagner Engineering, and Neil Schaefer. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve Wagner as the consultant.
I have a motion to approve Wagner Engineering. Do I have a second? Oh, yeah, a second from Councilwoman DeChico. Any discussion?
I'd like to do a substitute motion for Stafford.
We have a substitute motion for Stafford. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Beard. Any discussion?
I was on the committee that, when we looked at both firms, and I know we've had a long-term relationship with Neil Schaefer, and Kevin's always there when I need him, but in researching, I had so many positive references on Wagner, and every one of them called me back from people who've had 25-year relationship, 30-year relationship. Everything was very positive. They've never had a federal clawback. Their staff has more diversity in it than Neil Schaefer, and I think maybe it's time to look at adding some diversity to our relationship, and that's why I recommended Wagner.
What did the committee, since you was on that committee, what did they recommend?
Did we have a consensus on we really didn't have a consensus. And I was the only one that did any major research because we currently have the relationship with Neil Schaefer, but I have to say I called all of their references as well, and I had one that called me back after our meeting. That's why I thought it was so impressive that we had all of the references from Wagner called me back, and I did have to leave messages for everyone. I think there was only one person that I spoke to directly. I thought it was pretty impressive to hear from the mayors, and actually had supervisor that called me back. In fact, two people called me from DeSoto County. That was the input that I got.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
For which one?
For the substitute motion for Neil Schaefer. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Go back to the original motion for Wagner. Do I have a second? We did have a second from Chiquita. I'm sorry, guys. I had my booster shot yesterday. I'm not doing good. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discuss and approve renaming of 23rd Street, Sandfield, to honor Mr. Joe Edwards. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Stewart. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Beard. Any discussion?
Do we have a policy as far as how to, when these come up, is this on a case-by-case basis? This is the first time I've ever been in this where we're renaming streets and all that.
I think actually, and I'm not trying to correct anybody, but did you mean to say dedicate the street?
But it's more of a dedication, because when you rename a street, because of the emergency service, we don't rename, we just dedicate the street. The name will remain the same. It is totally different from a dedication and renaming.
It does make a big difference, because you'd have 911 issues and mailing and everybody.
Right, that's what I say, emergency service.
So when you dedicate, you still maintain your official address that it has been before.
Right, that's my understanding.
And also, the citizen that live on those streets, they don't have to undergo an address change and confusion.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's an honorary, but the name will be on the street area.
I will say, though, in answer to your question, we don't have a policy, and I think it would be a good idea to have one. And I I got a call from Councilman Jones today about it. I drafted one several years ago. So I can produce that to y'all for consideration if you would like to review it.
Yes, because we do have one that I think the council approved a few years ago that we still haven't gone through the process of actually doing the name. We need to revisit that one as well.
Yeah, the policy would talk about not just dedicating streets, but naming other facilities and public property that we have. And
Yes.
it would be prudent to have a policy on what factors to consider and for people to make an application and people to be notified and have a hearing and that sort of thing.
Well, I'd like us going forward to have that on the next agenda to discuss. And,
I agree. Thank you.
Vote on what policy we want to use going forward so that, you know, we won't be unfair to anybody. It will be fair to
Yes.
everybody going forward.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Yes, we'll plan to have that in our first
So
meeting.
what
in
is he
January.
saying, that we won't take no more until we hear back
Well, he wants to do it at the very next meeting, so.
from you, right?
Yeah, he wants to pass it at the next meeting. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discuss and approve renaming Ponderosa Drive, Highway 69 to honor Mr. Dennis Irby. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
from Councilwoman
Stewart.
Stewart and a second from Councilman Mickens.
So just to be clear, this is not renaming, this is dedicating.
This is dedicated.
Dedicating. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discussion of COO salary.
Mr. Mayor, we are currently still taking applications for the COO, and as a board, we will not make a bigger decision for where the city goes forward in the next 4 years. With that being said, I would like to raise the salary for the incoming COO, hopefully to attract some highly qualified people to help us run the city. So my motion is to raise the salary for the incoming COO to be advertised from $85,000 to $120,000, depending on qualifications and experience.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Councilman Mickens. Any discussion?
Have a committee met to determine the current employees that the current applicants that we have right now? Before we even raise it,
Well, remember,
they haven't even met to determine whether we need to raise it or not.
You seen,
right,
have you seen?
we haven't met, but they do have the information on the candidates.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but they haven't met to determine whether we need to raise it or not. We just raised it and hadn't even met to look over the applications or anything moving forward.
Mayor, I think we should.
You haven't met with the committee to see if you have anything. That should be a choice that the committee needs to make and bring to us.
Any other discussion?
People who've seen, I haven't seen the applicants, but I know Ms. Pat has. Anyone else looked at that? I mean, do you feel like there's a star in the group that?
I have looked at that, and I think Mr. Beard as well got this information. This was given to us when we had the insurance meeting the other day, work session at the insurance committee. So I have looked at it, and based on what I see, I think we could attract some very high qualified people, and since this is such an important position, I would like to see if we could get some more applicants that would possibly step forward that are not applying at this current salary.
Councilman Green, it would be my recommendation, we agreed that we would have a committee, is that the committee would meet and have this discussion. Because it's my understanding, looking at what you're proposing here, we're going to bring people in making more money than the mayor that's running the city. So I think the committee, I think the committee should meet and have a discussion on that before we vote yes or no. Because we agreed to have a committee, so why would you have a committee if it's not going to be something that was agreed upon by the committee?
That's fair, Ms. Stewart. I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
Even if you withdraw it, Mr. Green, the time frame, I want to remain the same. I mean, whatever y'all got to do. Okay, I don't want to push the time frame back. Then it come up in here in February and March, we still ain't got nobody. Now, in the time frame, I'm looking at around the 15th to the 20th. Y'all can do whatever you got to do. You can raise it up. You can meet. But come the 15th or 20th of January, we need to see somebody in here. I mean, we need to see somebody. But yeah, why haven't they met? The committee, why haven't they met? I see Mrs. Seacos, she's saying she haven't met. She's not on the committee. I can't hear you.
Yes, she is. She's on the committee.
Everybody but.
Councilor DeChico, Stewart, me, and you.
I would be okay, but I just think that they need to meet and then.
Well, the thing is going to be this, if you decide to wait on this, it is going to slow it down. We're going into the Christmas holidays. You know, I think they're going to try to meet. It seems like we have very good applicants for the CFO position. It's totally up to y'all, but it is, by removing that motion and waiting, it could potentially slow the process down.
Well, we don't want to slow things. Mr. Chico, haven't seen the applicants, and there's application. Let's make a plan to meet the week after Christmas, give everyone a chance to look at the application, so when we meet, you would know the candidates that you're meeting about.
I think the process is slowed down by them not meeting. Not just by tonight. Had met, then we'd be slowed down. We could have had a recommendation from the committee tonight.
Well, I will attempt to distribute and schedule a meeting next week sometime. I am sorry I gave you a set of the resumes and I thought you were on the committee, Councilman Jones.
How we looking for the CFO guys? How those applicants looking?
All of that information has been distributed. We ended up with 45 applicants, I believe. And I have gone myself and vetted the applications based on the fact that we did advertise for applicants with accounting degrees. And so I'm just excluding those who do not meet the minimum qualifications.
So are you telling me then we can move forward with the CFO, Mr. Green, committee? Or what are you telling me?
The committee needs to meet. The committee needs to meet, and I'll be happy to schedule that meeting next week.
Yes, we have good applicants too, very good applicants for the IT position too, I think, several qualified. So so you rescinded the motion?
I did.
Okay. All right, thank you, council. At this time, oh, do I have one more? I'm sorry, I knew I would do that. CARES Act. Mr. Mickens?
Yeah, we had made some commitments to the, there are not no commitments, but we've been trying to find some ways that we can help our city employees. Councilman Beard had worked very diligent on that project, trying to put something together. We looked at the insurance, getting some funds out of there, but it went from, at first they saying we had 300,000, then it went to 700,000, need to stay in there. Now it went to 1.11, just over $1 million last Thursday. Now I'm seeing it up to 1.7 today from Mr. Cox. And we got, 1.9 in there, so that's tied up. Seems like we can't get it from ARCO. So, Mr. Turnage, I saw last night where our governor, Mr. Tate Reed, approved for all the state troopers to get a $1,000 bonus by Friday from the CARES Act. So, I asked that question. It was in the Bible when the Enoch was walking with Philip. He said, what hinders you from baptizing me in this little pool of water? So I want to know what hinders us from doing what Mr. Reed did in Jackson.
How much do we have in CARES Act? If I can ask
Mayor and council, 14 months ago, on November 10th of 2020, we received, and it was deposited into the city's account, $553,695. $553,695.
Did we take any of that and gave to the fire department for the apparatus or not? We didn't?
It was in the budget.
That came out the budget? All of it?
And the CARES Act money, for clarification, is not, it can be spent as you desire. It's not designated like Arpa money, because this was a reimbursement that we received for overtime.
So you're saying they can pay bonuses with it?
I'm saying
I mean,
it can be used in general fund in any way. It's not restricted.
it's not, it is restricted. I mean, you can only spend it lawfully.
Right, okay.
And so what you
We
got.
want to do that for sure.
What you have now is a case where our governor says you can pay bonus pay for law enforcement as emergency responders. On the other hand, you got our state auditor who has made a demand on the LaFleur County supervisors for using CARES Act money to make a bonus payment, and they're ordered to pay back each supervisor about $28,000, except one who has only had to pay back $500 because he didn't vote for the first bonus, but he later voted for a bonus. I think in LaFleur County, the supervisors did it across the board and not just emergency response. I can't answer how the governor can declare a bonus when our state auditor and our attorney general and our Constitution say bonuses are not lawful. But I mean, I don't understand it. I'll just be honest with you, because I talked again to the MML lawyer today. I said, "Do you reckon our state auditor is going to tell the governor that he's going to owe the state of Mississippi for authorizing bonus pay?" And he said, "Doubtful." And I said, "I know, I was joking." But I still can't recommend across the board bonuses. And what he did was retroactive pay.
For police officers, correct?
Yeah, for state agency police, law enforcement.
So, Mr. Turner, so what can you recommend?
If you want to do it for some kind of pay, I would say that it'd have to be incentive pay for future work, not retroactive pay. All due respect to the governor, I don't know what authority he was relying on to do that. I can't recommend you bonus anything because our Constitution is so clear that you can't. And as Mr. Dillon said, the CARES Act no longer has anything much to do with it. It's now our money to be spent in accordance with state law. So if you wanted to pay across the board raises, it would have to be future incentive pay. I outlined some ways you might want to go about it under the Arpa plan. I think that would be a prudent way, that you would classify our employees as essential for various categories, as the governor did in Executive Order 1461. He had, in that order, which is now expired, a laundry list of every different type of municipal employee and what their jobs were and why they were essential. And I think it pretty much covered almost every job category that we have. If you want to do that, say, make it last as long as the money lasts for future work, I can't recommend a bonus.
Do we have to call them a bonus? I mean, it's all about wording.
Well, and I didn't see what the governor actually said. I read a report in a news media article, and it referred to it as a bonus, which shocked me. But I don't know. You say the governor actually used the word bonus? Unbelievable.
It was in the article, yes.
I know it just happened yesterday. Do you think by this meeting that you can tell us exactly what we can and cannot do?
I can tell you, I can tell you that.
A real recommendation on how we can get this done.
I'll do my best to do that, yes. And I think you could use the CARES Act money and do forward pay for people. I'd see no reason why you couldn't do that, but I'm never going to be comfortable suggesting you can do a bonus because our Constitution prohibits that.
But that's just using the word bonus, right?
Well, let me put it another way. You can't, providing pay that is not under consideration for past work would constitute a bonus. So I don't care what you call it. If it's for work they did in the past, it would still not meet the constitutional test for lawfulness, in my opinion. So I don't know what the governor, I'd like to know what authority he's relying on, because I doubt it's legal. I can bring back a proposal for you at the next meeting that would discuss how to dispose of the $553,695 as incentive pay, if that's what your wishes are.
And I would second it. Well, I did speak with.
Well, I think you're smarter to look at this CARES Act fund, if that's what you want to do with it, than you would to use ARPA money, which it's lots of restrictions with the federal government. Plus, you've got the state lined up to match those expenditures if you use it on things that the lieutenant governor and the governor and the secretary, not the secretary of state, but other players in Jackson, Philip Gunn, the Speaker of the House, have said if you use it for these things, they'll be matching money. So the CARES Act money is I'm more comfortable with that than using the ARPA money. I'll do that.
How to get it done. I don't want to propose on what we can't do next time, like we have in the past. I want to propose on how we get it done, point blank.
Understand.
And if not, then what can we spend it on? We're just sitting on it. The city need money, the employee need money. So there's a great need there, but we have money that we can't figure out how to spend it.
Well, I'm assuming that when you've engaged the company on the ARPA, you just voted on that. So I would think they would be of great help on how to spend that. I haven't spent any time researching all the places that you can spend it, because up until now it's been my understanding the question is about premium pay. And not just whether you can do premium pay, but can you do it all the way across the board, regardless of job description. And that concerns me, because you get into people that are less on the front line than your firefighters and your emergency responders. But with this CARES Act money, which is now restricted only by state law, I would think that there's not nearly the restrictions that would make me squeamish about across-the-board raises that ARPA does.
I have another question. On the ARPA money, if we voted for the engineering company to be the consultant, will the responsibility fall on them the way they spend the money, or does it come back to?
No, it comes back to the council.
To the council and the city?
It's going to probably fall back on the mayor and city council. They'll give you recommendations, and I believe they'll all make recommendations with their own council, but ultimately,
the decisions will be with the council.
From speaking with someone yesterday, they basically stated, that's why I asked about the wording, that they can take the documentation and do it themselves without having the city attorney to do it. And then it will basically be the firm representing the city with how the money was spent, who would take the drawback instead of the actual attorney of the city. If I made any sense with how I said that. But they did say that that the premium pay money is available for all employees based on the guidelines of what is deemed an essential worker. That also that clerks and things were not included in it because they had the option to go home and work. But we didn't give our employees that option. The city of Columbus ran day-to-day operations during COVID most of the time. So that would make all of the employees be eligible under essential work because they were in contact with the public or with each other. So he basically said that they can word it to the aspect of, like I say, it's all about verbiage. And they can word it in the aspect of how you can get it, who can get it, and it will all be bulleted points.
Would this
and how
person be
that
willing to
work.
come and speak to us about that?
We just hired them.
If they
He's
want to
shaking his head.
if they want to do that without my blessing on it, I would be delighted to let it go that way. Because I'm concerned about it, and I've talked to numerous other lawyers that also have concerns. So if they have a comfort level and y'all are comfortable with their advice.
We ain't looking for another lawyer.
Yes, sir, and that's totally different than ARPA.
You have a motion from Councilman Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Stewart. Mr. Jones, could you repeat your motion, please?
Come back, they can either be a special call meeting or our next council meeting, whichever one is, decide or gets it done on how we can distribute the CARES Act money to the employees.
It'd probably be good if we could do it at the next work session, if that gives you time.
Sure.
You sure?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have it for you.
Thank you.
Do we have a second? Oh, yes, I'm
I
sorry, Ms.
second.
Stewart. Thank you. Councilwoman Stewart seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, council. At this time, I would request a motion to enter into closed determination upon the issue of whether or not to declare an executive session.
Recording stopped.
Have a motion from Councilman Jones and a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, council members. Thank you, audience, for being here tonight. This is our last council meeting into the new year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to each of you. Oh, Lord.